All right, I'm here with Devin Allen, one of Baltimore's finest, world-renowned photographer, produced an amazing book, A Beautiful Ghetto. Welcome, Devin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us at The Real News. So we're here today. I just want to talk to you about, your vision for Baltimore, the work you've been doing with young people to develop their skills in the arts, and just where we can expect you to go next. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. I'm down. Let's go.
All right, so let's start with the kids. You are working with young people in a project called Through Their Eyes. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Through Their Eyes is it's not really, I don't know what it is yet.
Okay.
It was just my reaction to, becoming an artist in the city where I come from. I didn't know any photographers, and the fact that I went from being an aspiring, photographer to cover Time magazine. With all that attention and all that social media power that was behind me at that time, I wanted to start a program. It's like, if I can end up on the cover of Time magazine, that shows how powerful I am. But imagine if it was 10 more Devin Allens with me while I was shooting this, and we all would be, in these magazines and controlling this narrative. So I was like, got the Time cover in May. Let me use this attention. Started a GoFundMe. Even the creative GoFundMe donated $1,000 to it.
Wow.
And then Russell Simmons gave me a $20,000 grant, which DeRay worked through, and Michael Skolnick helped with. And I've been doing it for 3 years. It's something that, for me, is just me passing on everything that I gained and then passing it on, and not just letting the knowledge die inside my head or not. Because I've gone places that where I come from, is not promised.
Or expected, right?
Or expected.
So talk a little bit about, what you see in the young people you work with when they're able to look through their eyes and take a look and capture Baltimore.
I'm jealous of my kids, because I started photography at 20. I got my first camera in 2013. I was around 24, and I got a Time cover at 26, turning 27. And when I look at these kids, it's like, wow. Once they learn the little, because I don't teach them off the bat. When I come and I work with them, it's just building a relationship. And then they want to take pictures, and when they can't get the picture, and that's when I come in with the technical stuff. And when they finally understand aperture and ISO, these kids are unstoppable. They can outshoot some of the greatest, because their imagination is just effortless.
And unbound, I guess.
Yes, and their perspective, being from the inner city, being from West Baltimore, documenting and trying to understand your own situation, is the greatest journalism of all time.
Mm-hmm. And so you have a book, A Beautiful Ghetto. What are future plans you have for documenting the experience of communities like the one you're from in West Baltimore, and the one I'm from in Flatbush, Brooklyn? What are your future goals for documenting the lived experiences of people like you and me?
My biggest thing is I don't want to get put into a position where you become successful and they put you in this space where you become a gatekeeper. And it's now people have to go through you and you have to validate them. And that's not what I want to be. So my biggest thing is how can I make sure that kids know about Gordon Parks, they know about Robert Houston, who is from East Baltimore, they know about Tony Barboza and Jamel Shabazz. How can I take the culture that people wasn't paying attention to, those Black photographers, and then apply that and then teach kids to inspire to be the next Devin Allen, the next Jamel Shabazz, or the next Gordon Parks. So it's at a certain point in time, as I get older, I'm going to become disconnected, because I can't be outside all day, because, it becomes dangerous sometimes, documenting stuff where you still have a history. So for me, I want to move further and explore other things in the world and try to digest the world. But I want to make sure that everything that I've learned, everything that I've gained, that Baltimore gave to me and built me to be, that I can apply that and teach it to younger kids to, fill that void when I am gone.
Mm-hmm. How important is it that young people have access to the arts?
It's very important. It's life-saving, because the thing is, art helps you digest the rest of the world. So if for me, art helps me deal with my issues. I suffer from depression. I didn't know what anxiety is. I was going to have, that's what anxiety is, because they don't educate us on these things. This is post-traumatic stress from seeing people get shot or burying my friends. But art helps me digest that and then regurgitate it, which also takes some pressure off you know, it helps me heal also. So with kids, they learn, with art, they learn how to express themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of kids just bottle those emotions and they never deal with it. And then next thing you know, this kid is like exploding and you never know where that energy might transfer to, you know. It might send them down a dark path.
Right. You mentioned Gordon Parks. You're a Gordon Parks Fellow. Will you talk a little bit about that experience and connecting to his work?
Gordon Parks he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. He's iconic. I remember in 2012, when I first took it, I was like, what? I want to do photography, you know? And my friend, I was a club promoter. We was throwing parties and stuff like that. And we was doing a poetry night at the time. And I didn't want to do poetry. I was like, I'm gonna take pictures and that translates better for me. And we were taking pictures and putting them on T-shirts. And I would hire a photographer, but then I wanted to do it myself because as a hustler from Baltimore, we gotta move fast, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember Googling black photographers and Gordon Parks popped up. And I just saw this slick guy, his hair was slicked back. He had the pipe in his hand. I'm like, this guy's smooth. Like, he's super smooth. But then I saw his pictures of Muhammad Ali and his essay on the Harlem Gangsters, like and I was like, this guy, work is just like, he's going in places that I see every day, but then he can turn around and go shoot for Vogue. How do you, what is going on? This guy's amazing. And I watched Shaft, and then, my mother was like, oh, his son, you need to go watch Superfly. So I watched Superfly because Gordon Parks Jr. did that. And I'm like, this guy's like, I want to be this guy one day. You know, and that was in 2013, into 2012. So to get a call in 2017, into 2016, I couldn't say anything. They was like, you can't say anything. And they was starting this new fellowship thing, and they called me. So I'm like the first Gordon Parks Fellow.
Wow.
So to call and then talk to people that actually knew him and say I remind them of him, you know, it's an amazing feeling. Like, I have big shoes to fill. You know, he's the reason why, you know, why I took a job with Under Armour to shoot sports more, because of his work of Muhammad Ali would change me and inspire me.
So you talk about Muhammad Ali, you talk about Gordon Parks. You said, you know, I want to be the next Gordon Parks. You know, before we started filming, talked a little bit about your legacy and the legacy you leave for your daughter. All of her kids are going to be Allens, right? Will you talk a little bit about how you plan to build that legacy? You mentioned you're going to be traveling. Will you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, legacy is something that, like, my family, we pride ourselves on being the family that we are. You know, like, I come from, like, Kearneys, you know, that's like my traditional family name, but they pride themselves. We go to family reunions in North Carolina and we tie it back to our lineage, you know, like something to be proud of. So, you know, I want to build a legacy for my daughter with something for her to be proud of. You know, I want to be so great and so, you know, out of this world that her husband takes my last name. She's like, no, your last name is Allen. If you love me, my name is Allen. Look, my dad was just, we can't lose that name.
Yeah.
You know, and I got that name from my father, you know, and father wasn't the best father, but at the same time, the lessons that I learned from him. So my goal is to build something that my family can be proud of. Like, I'm the first male in my family to get a high school diploma, you know, so I'm kind of treated as, I'm the baby, you know. Me and my little sister are 7 years apart. So when I was the baby, I was like, always looked at as like, not the golden child, but I couldn't do any wrong, you know. So I've done things that even my family can't even believe. So if I can make that normal, it's like, oh, one of our cousins is traveling doing this, another cousin is doing this. It's building that legacy that's sustainable, that my family won't have to deal with the stuff that we had to deal with in the past. You know, heroin addiction that affected my family, murder, losing cousins to gun violence, losing cousins to the system. If I can be that monumental piece that we never have to go back to those things again, that's the goal.
So I do want to get to your travel, but I want to ask a little more about what you just said in terms of what you can mean to your family, because the other side of that, when you talk about self-care, mental health, is sometimes having too many expectations placed on your shoulders. How do you deal with that, and how do you accommodate that balance between achieving so much, but having the world on your shoulders sometimes?
It's tough. Like, I got, like, suicide scars, you know? I tried to kill myself after the Time cover. you know, because you go from being like this amateur, you know, everybody loves social media, and it's like you go from like 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. Now, you know, like you got people from the creator of Instagram on CNN talking about, yes, Devin Allen, you know, taking my pictures, my work to the Pope. You know, it's a lot to take in, and it's hard. It's very hard. But Baltimore, this city, me riding through the city, riding my bike through the hood, taking my pictures, it keeps me grounded. You know, those family cookouts keeps me grounded. And I went to a dark place. I was stuck in the uprising for almost 2 years, going on 3. I was dealing with post-traumatic stress. A lot of people looking at it, like I just posted a video, you know, of me showing me, you know, running through police officers. And everybody like, oh, that's so dope. It's not dope. Right. It's not. Like,
that was real life.
It's real life, and it's a lot to take in, being pepper sprayed and tear gassed and marching, you know, for Freddie Gray. It took a lot out of me. And it's really hard, you know, to live up to your expectations. You know, you put yourself in a space where you might crash. Like I crashed, you know, and luckily I had a system, a family that when I went to that dark place, you know, that's when I found out my dad was bipolar, you know, because my mother had me hospitalized and my father was in Shepherd Pratt, you know, he left Shepherd Pratt, he came and told me like, hey, I'm bipolar. This is what you might have to deal with later in your years. Don't drink white liquor, that's also a good thing. So I stick to whiskey, and you know, and that's—
No white liquor.
And that's when me and my father bonded for the first time, because he opened up about him being bipolar, you know, self-medicating with alcohol, being molested by his stepfather, and dealing with those things that really helped me heal. And then now I understood that it's okay to drop the ball or not fulfill certain goals. But long as I keep evolving as a person and being a good person and leading with love and then also helping other people, and then that's a win.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about travel. Where are you headed next?
Next up, Tokyo, Manila, possibly for Under Armour with Steph Curry. I've been traveling with Steph Curry right after the Time cover in 2015. Under Armour, Kevin Plank, Steve Batista, and Brian Bourne from Under Armour, Thomas Harris, and Roel reached out to me, and they took me. Mind you, I'm a kid from West Baltimore. I don't even have a passport. I'm like, hey, I have this CDS violation from like 2009. Can I get on this plane? You know, they're like, no, don't worry. You know, and they took me to Tokyo. They took me to the Philippines. We went to Shanghai and Beijing and Chongqing. It was life-changing, and that's when I started to understand the world a little bit more. And for the past 3, going on 4 years, every summer, Steph Curry goes through this tour through Asia, and I'm always taken with him. Yeah. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, to capture images.
Yeah.
So how important is it for young people in Baltimore to also be able to get their passport, get on a plane, and see some world?
It's important. Even for me, like being from Baltimore, the furthest I ever been, I'm 30 now, the furthest I've ever been from Baltimore. I've always lived in Baltimore. The furthest I was Baltimore County, Woodlawn. Like, that's the furthest I've, you know, North Carolina to see some family. Miami, Zoe Weekend. Traditional Baltimore tradition, you go to Zoe Weekend over the summer. And I started going to New York a lot once I became an artist, and I would like catch the mega bus up. But I never really experienced the world.
Yeah.
You know, I just started living at 25. And I think that's important too, the fact that these kids are dying so young, they don't have a chance to, you know, they making the mistakes, but they don't have a chance to basically go back and revisit and say, I should never did that.
Yeah.
You know, they're not growing, they're dying so young. So it's like for me at 30 now, which I never thought I would be, I thought I was gonna die at 21, you know, I've been all over the world. My passport is full. You know, I've been to Salisbury, Austria. I didn't even know that was a place. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been to London. You know, like one of my mentors is a scholar from Princeton. You know, I've done talks at Brown University. You know, so it's like giving people, Baltimore, these kids are not having the space to heal and then be great with what they're meant to be. They're dying too young to really figure out who they are. You know, I was lucky enough to find out who I am, because if you see my Throwback Thursday pictures, I had a mouthful of goals and braids. Like, I was not a guy sitting there with a bandana tied around my neck, riding a bike.
Yep. So we were talking a little bit about that before as well, seeing one of the homies kind of pull up in a dope vehicle and, you know, there you go, riding on your bicycle with your bandana around your neck. How important is it for that black boy joy to be expressed in many forms and not isolated into one image?
Yeah, it's very important because even being a black woman, my mother raised me to survive. So you gotta just really like digest it, because everyone talks about like being a black man is hard. It is, but you gotta think about the mothers that are raising these men. So you have, for instance, my father wasn't around, but my stepfather was amazing. But my mother had to raise me lovingly, but still I had to survive. So at a young age, this is how you deal with police. You know, I had to be tough, so I knew how to fight, had to fight. You know, but when I revisited my younger self, and it was just like, I realized who I was the whole time. I'm not an artist by mistake, I've been one. You know, I grew up watching anime and watching Dragon Ball Z and drawing, but I had to hide those things because I had to perceive myself to the rest of the world, that the ecosystem that I was in, that I was tough.
Let me give you dap on being a black nerd. You're my family.
Yeah, yes.
You're my family.
Yes, because it's an awkwardness, because those things are not normal. It's not normal. Yeah. Now, if I'm selling weed out of a bag of Utz, crab, be it precise, that's normal. Right. You know, so I had to—
No questions about that.
Yeah, so I had to hide who I truly was to survive, because I had to perceive myself as this tough guy to make it through life, but that was never me from the get-go. So me selling dope or trapping or doing whatever I needed to do, those are things that I didn't really have to do if I was confident and I had someone to look up to. But when I came outside, when I went to school, the dope boys were getting all the accolades. The tough guys were getting all the accolades. And that's the thing. You know, like being in a black space, you had to be hyper masculine. You know, for me, just not too long ago, I had to like lean on one of my friends, because now that I'm an artist, I interact with so many different types of people. I have transgender friends, I have gay friends, I have all different type of friends from different walks of life that I love, that are essential to me and my growth. But growing up, my best friend who was murdered was gay. I didn't know. He hid it from me very well. But you got to think about it, that's my best friend. He never came open to me out of fear, because the space that we were in, we fought everybody, you know, and that broke my heart. And that's what kind of broke that seal for me to let the world in. But that black boy joy needs to be celebrated in multiple different ways. Everybody, you don't have to be this tough guy, hyper masculine, all these different things. And that's what's really hindering us. And also the fact that the love and the lack of love that we have in the black community right now, you know, is not celebrated enough. If it bleeds, it leads. Negativity makes money. So seeing black bodies on the ground makes money, but hugging another brother, that's weak. So we gotta really like take that into perspective. Like I hug all my friends and my friends think it's weird. And I'm like, I don't care, bro, I love you. I done buried 20-something friends, but I need to hug you, bro, because I might not see you tomorrow.
Right, right. Devin, thank you for your time.
No problem.
This is dope. I gotta have you back.
Yes, definitely.
Next time we'll only talk black nerd stuff, all right?
Yeah. New Dragon Ball Z movie coming out soon.
Listen,
Fire.
Listen. We'll double date to Black Panther 2.
Yo.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No doubt.